Welcome everybody. So happy to be here with you today. We're past our first quarter of 2024, seeing a lot of crazy stuff. I'm sure everybody's been dealing with this data breach that we've had to deal with. But today let's talk about the coding and billing updates for orthopedics. The objectives today, we're going to talk about the new codes that we got for 2024 and some updates that we have, as well as some ICD10 updates and some overview, some things I want to talk to you about that we're seeing with the payers regarding ICD10. And then we're going to talk a lot about the payer policy changes for pre-authorization as well as coverage policies. We've got a lot of updates going on with the payers and their third parties for pre-authorization. So I want to talk a lot about that because that affects us a lot in how we get paid, right? So that definitely is a biggie. And then talk a little bit about E&M. It's always on our mind, but there is some updates for 2024 again. We did have that big update a couple years ago where they did away with the old guidelines and changed them, but now we have another update with the verbiage in our E&M. So we will talk about that. And then I want to talk a little bit about self-auditing and how you can make sure your team and your books are staying up to snuff. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about self-auditing and how you can do that and make sure everything is, being done the way that it should be. And then, like the moderator was stating, we will have a Q&A session. I'm going to leave some time at the end, so make sure to write down those questions, or you can send them as we're going in the chat and we will save those till the end. So make sure you send those in because we want to make sure we answer all your questions. So let's go ahead and dive right in. We also have some new codes added to the ASC payable list for orthopedics, which is really exciting. So we can do reconstruction of the shoulder joint. The 23470 and 23472 have both been added to the ASC payable list. So now we can take those to an ASC. Incision of hip tendons 27006, as well as a reconstruction of ankle joint 27702, and as well as our meniscus transplant with a scope 29868. So we can take those to ASCs now. So that's kind of exciting stuff. So that's a biggie. As for ICD-10, we didn't have a ton of changes per se, but we do have an uptick in denials for laterality. Another thing before we dive into evaluation and management in 2024, moving into E&M, evaluation and management. So we, like I said, we do have a new definition. So what they did is they added a minimum time met or exceeded for each code. So it used to say that, typically this amount of time was spent, but now it states that the 15 minutes minimum time must be met or exceeded for a 99202. 99203 is 30 minutes, 99204 is 45 minutes, 99205 is 60 minutes, and then moving into payer updates. So this is where we definitely have a lot of stuff to talk about. So payer updates, obviously these can change throughout the year. I recommend to check them often. Good time to check is obviously the beginning of the year because, things can change at the beginning of the year or at the end of the year. The websites might not be up to date. Customer service is always a good place to ask because they might have up-to-date information. And then the third parties for those payers may change. So Evacor might change to Availity, or Careline might change to Availity, or Availity might change to Carelon. Care Advance might change to Evacor. So you never know who's going to be handling pre-authorizations for what payers, and when they change, you don't want to be doing an authorization for a payer through the wrong portal. So there is another pre-authorization portal that we use a lot for orthopedics, and this is just a snip of all of the orthopedic driven musculoskeletal, essentially, policies that they have on their website.